No one spoke during that trip, not Chiyu to explain anything, not Tamarack to ask when you'd be there. Past the sounds of footsteps and snapping twigs, you could hear the bubbling of water. It became more and more clear, until the woods parted, smoothed away by an old stone bridge as though the earth was wearing a beret in its leafy hair. Beret, I think, is actually the right way of saying it. Crumbly set of stairs led to a trickling stream below. There was no mistaking it. It was the special thing. Tamarack sucked in a whistle breath and did not let it out. Her cheeks fully puffed out, and she stamped her feet as if she was revving up an engine. And then she was gone. Tamarack shot ahead, leaping from step to step until she was frolicking the little valley below. Wait for us! Chiyu shouted after her, and then had the thought to move after her as well. He and Darren darted for the way down together, though Chiyu took a shortcut by jumping off the stairs at the halfway point. Watch your step. Baxter whispered lightly to you. That was not a warning, because he was worried. It was a big kid's test to see if it'd shake your nerves. He danced down the stairwell right after without a care in the world. That didn't change anything for you, honestly. You barreled forward as quickly as anyone, and you reached the bottom totally fine. Hey Darren, you can leave the bags near the stairs. We'll eat them later. Chiyu took huge strides down the slight hill, holding out his arms for balance. He joined up with Tamarack, who'd crouched by the water. Are there fish in there? Or frogs? If there were any, her yelling and stomping would have scared them to the other side of the state. Maybe. I think I saw something moving in there before, but it's a great place, huh? Tamarack's rosy face went blank for a blink. Was it a great place? All the anticipation that had built up, joy from the incredible realization of the answer, burst forth in a grand cheer. Yes! It's a special thing! I mean, I guess I could say I like it. No, we're more talkative. We're not really going to do any like the non-talking stuff. No, I like it. I do too. Tamarack basked in the glow of her own excitement. Everyone there was happy, but her joy outshone all else. Then she sprung onto the rainbow-clad feet again. There was more yet to see. Climbing over mossy stones and looking under them too, the group spread out to explore. The air there cooled, you through. You could feel its chill against the roof of your mouth and teeth with every breath, like the aftermath of eating a mint. It wasn't only the autumn season and the wind rushing across the valley, though those were two parts of why. Being so close to water added a third layer to the unique type of cold you experience at the special place. It really was a land set apart from everything else. While clambering about, Tamarack imagined a fairy tale about a mysterious creature that lived under the bridge. She never set foot there until that day, but it was certain she was an expert on its hidden history. Her stories were better than a movie. Then Tamarack made a different kind of explanation to the crowd. I'm gonna cross the bridge now. She'd already begun inching that way. Yeah, check it out. I'll think about what to do while we're here. We could play a game or something. Chiyu, Baxter, and Darren stood in unified front on that come up with the plan despite Chiyu doing all the talking. Okay, I'll come back later. Yeah, I'll just follow with her. No, I'll stick with her. Oh, you're coming? Alright, let's go see the bridge. Boys waved you off on your short trip. Tamarack skipped up the stairs, and you climbed them too. At the top, Tamarack wasted no time running along the stones. Neither did you. The others remained side by side. Tamarack glanced at the trees clinging by thick roots to the hillside, and the carved blocks that created the path suspending you above the ground, completely enchanted. From those fantastic stories and the sparkles in her eyes, Tamarack might have believed there was real magic to be found here. You went to the opposite end, peered into the mountain's path beyond, then looped around the way you'd come. Halfway on the second crossing, Tamarack paused to glance over the valley. Look at them down there. So little. Tamarack was smiling cutely. The way her cheeks rounded was especially adorable. But then, with no warning, her lips stretched into something mischievous. Tamarack's gaze had gone far away. She finally gripped the strap across her shoulder. When the idea finished coming to life in her mind, Tamarack got to action. starting by taking the bag off and dropping it on the bridge with a thud. Next, Tamarack crouched down to undo the front straps. What are you looking for? She giggedly hee-heed. I have an idea. Tamarack rummaged around inside with both hands and her tongue sticking out until... Got it. She yanked out a lumpy, bumpy something you only got a glimpse before she was gone. Tamarack rushed to the railing and just about tackled the stone wall. She shut her face out over it. She had to lean onto her tippy toes to get that far. The vantage point was used to great effect as Tamarack let out a shout that echoed through the entire valley. Boys! Intrigued by what was happening, you approached the railing and glanced below. There was a very confused boy club gathered in a bunch, looking straight up at you and Tamarack. They moved from one side of the stream to the other at some point. Tamarack thrusted a closed fist out over the side of the bridge. Between her fingers was the bag of cashews from before. She shook it about. Tamarack had a challenge. If I throw these cashews from up here, do you think you could catch them? Every eye and mouth in the audience popped open wide in surprise, and the crowd went wild. Reached their hands to the sky, shouting in unison. Yeah! It was like seeing a nest of baby birds with their mom dangling dinner over their head. Tamarack chuckled again. She pulled from the edge pathway to settle on the balls of her feet. At a normal talking level, Tamarack spoke words for you. If they miss, the animals can eat it. It's just nuts. You can throw it too, or you can go down if you want to catch. I want to catch. Turn around and crossed the rest of the stone path. While you started down the stairs, you heard Tamarack calling out. Taya's gonna catch too. Wait for him to get there. Cool. She answered before leading the charge back over the small brook. At the bottom of the steps, the three boys welcomed you to the valley. Each wore a confident grin. The game was almost on, and you were a new competitor. Leader of this new game selected one single cashew off the top. She stretched out over the drop again in 2 fingers. Tamarack daintily dangled the first prize, paper airplanes, and now cashews. Tamarack certainly liked throwing things at people. Hey, Canistelle. Welcome in. Ready? Another unanimous clamor rose from the boys' club. You're ready! With a flick of the wrist and no final warning, the nuts sailed through the air. Players scrambled to be wherever the cashew was going to land. You elbowed your way through the group, aiming right for the front. It went straight down, bounced against a stone, and rolled away, never to be seen again. No one got close. The gang's desperate fever fizzled. Awkward glances were sent about the field. That was just a test one. Chu's excuse amused other kids, getting slight smiles to spread, but there was truth in it. The players had a much better idea for the landing zone. Maybe the next time, or the time after, somebody would get something. Hey, Egg Yolk. Yep, here we go. Someone as enthusiastic as her wouldn't stick to that pace. It was only the starting shot, after all. She shoveled cashews into both her palms, then shimmed her arms back and forth above your heads. The nuts trickled from her hold without pause, at least until she had to reload. The game was on. The frenzy reached new heights as everyone went in dizzying circles, stumbling over uneven ground and leaping for the goldenish-colored metals. Baxter took the simplest method to catch stuff. He used his hands to snatch at the falling snacks. Chiyu and Darren bent their necks to face towards the sky. He attempted to sink a nut directly into their open mouths. You've been way brighter than you thought when you pictured them as chicks hoping for food before. Fuck it, I'm resourceful. You had your mouth and palms open. The game is too hard. The more places a cashew could be caught, the better, right? Made your neck sore, but it was worth it. She might have been one girl, but the waves of cashews Tamarack sent down were more than enough to keep the catchers on their combined 40 toes. In the heat of battle, you were shaken by a sudden loud crash. Uh-oh. She and Darren slammed directly into each other. Tamarack brought both toppling over, directly into Baxter. Keeping his eyes ahead didn't save him. Baxter went down with the rest of the club. She landed in a heap as helplessly as the cashews no one caught. Ack! Oof! Ugh! 2 boys rolled onto their backs in the grass, holding their poor faces. The third was flat out on his stomach, blinking in surprise. This could ruin all the fun. I don't care, bro. Y'all fell. Y'all better tee up. I'm gonna say, what a bunch of crash dummies. Tamara cupped her hands together, stopping any more cashews from falling. Are your heads okay? From youngest to oldest, the group started climbing to their feet again. They brushed off leaves and grass and a couple cashew pieces sticking to their clothes. Baxter helplessly plucked debris off his buddy's backside that they couldn't reach. Chiyu inhaled deeply, tilted far enough back to drop his hood onto his shoulders, and responded to the concern loud enough for all to hear. Oh, I hit the wrong button. Return to game. Goodbye. I'm good. Nobody's bleeding. That's something. Yeah, it's cool. That was mostly fun. What about you guys? Still feeling alright? I'm fine. Baxter entered with total calm, slipping his hand in his pockets. Darren huffed as he twisted his puffy vest to lay right again. My butt hurts, but I'm good too. His friend laughed over the additional bit of Darren deciding to share. Then Chiyu shot off a thumbs up to Tamarack to let her know things were okay. Yeah, it was fun. Right. That was like a perfect blow, just blam, right to the ground. We were dragged Baxter with us. Chiyu slung his arms over the shoulders of his friends. That time, they chuckled along with Chiyu. The mood had lifted in no time, like Chiyu had picked himself off the ground. And so the event resumed, more careful this time. Master got another nut, then a good few more after. His palm gradually filled with cashews, chunks, which was not easy to pull off. Then the unbelievable happened. One of the nuts dropped directly into Darren's gaping mouth. Darren was so surprised something in his tongue that he coughed and spat the cashew out. That didn't diminish the glory of the feat. In fact, it only proved for sure that he had done it. All eyes were on Darren again, though for entirely different reasons than a minute ago. Baxter and Chiyu crowded around the champ, slapping his shoulder and ruffling his hair. This was technically a competition against each other, but if one of them was triumphant, it was a victory for the entire club. Darren grinned at the attention, breathing hard from exertion. His cheeks and the spot where Chiyu's face had smacked into his chin were all red. Still, Tamarack didn't declare it over. The bag wasn't empty. This would be the last hurrah. Your strategy hadn't paid off. Your face and hands all filled to secure a nut. Pause. No, I'm kidding. Well, you couldn't see where your hands were when you had them back. You had to flail them around and hope something came their way. Maybe that was why nothing did. Still, your efforts continued. I got one. Roasted buttery taste explosion collided with your tongue. The boys' club stopped in their tracks. Huh, you're good. Looks like it. There's restrained reactions were followed by Chiyu loudly showering with praise. You really did it. Way to show him what our cul-de-sac can do. Tamarack clapped her hands from high, showering you literally. It looks like fairy dust was drifting down, but it was the salt coating your fingers. Woo! You made your friends proud. That was something you could be proud of about in turn. Yes, I caught one. You cheered too loudly and almost choked in your hard-earned cashew. Then another nut fell from the sky. Tamarack snickered on her perch. It was a little surprise attack. The group sprang into action, though not for much longer. Soon a shout rang out that stamped out the excitement quicker than when the first nut hit the ground. That's all the cashews! Oh, it's over? Chiyu bent forward like a sagging bag of nuts. His head hung low, and his arms dangled down in front of him. It couldn't have been a more exaggerated show of disappointment. This had to stop sometime. Your focus had been on Chiyu's dramatic over-the-game ending. When you noticed Baxter again, you were stunned. Magically, his hair was smooth again, and his pose was permanently relaxed. Baxter had returned to his usual nonchalant status faster than the eye can see. It was as if he never was running around the valley trying to catch cashews, or that at one point he'd fallen flat on the ground. You'd have a lot of chances. Those were special chosen words. Baxter followed them up by beginning to munch on the pile of cashews he gathered throughout the game. An awful subtle brag, it was his coy smirk. With each bite gave the intention away. You remembered how Chiyu had described him. Devious. With amused disbelief at such gall, Chiyu shook his head. I'm gonna go eat stuff our great snack king brought. You guys have been eating things. Chiyu directed his quip at Baxter, despite lumping Baron into it. The other guy in the equation still had something to say. Darren smooshed the back of his fuzzy gloves around his mouth to wipe off the crumbs lingering there. I didn't eat it, I just caught it. Oh, wow. Thanks for reminding everybody, Darren. Chiyu poked his buddy's arm accusingly. That's close enough. Not for eating anything, but I guess if you mean we had cashews and you didn't, yeah, it is. Dang. She wasn't catching a single break. He was mature enough to let the teasing become water under the bridge. He moved on, calling to Tamarack. Hey, meet us at the stairs. Chiyu stuck one arm towards the spot. He used his other hand to cup his mouth. We're gonna eat the other snacks. Coming. Yeah, she actually didn't even eat any of the cashews. News of a new activity made Tamarack bounce celebration. She was energized for the next bit of fun. Though she didn't do any of the tiring work during the game. The four of you walked slowly to the steps. Most players were still out of breath. Cashews crunched under your shoes. This carry snacks was supposed to be the king's job. Not anymore. We gathered on the steps nestled in the hillside of the valley. 3 kids settled down, the shortest one at the highest point, going up in size and down a level from there. Tamarack had come from the top, so she didn't get too far towards the ground. Chiyu took the lead for his club and sat on the step directly under her. Darren was on the spot behind Chiyu. Baxter only leaned his shoulder against the cobblestone wall. I'm just next to Chiyu. Whatever. You know, I'm hashtag life is hard. Chiyu eagerly let you join him on the mossy slab. You couldn't sit together at school, but no one could stop you from doing it right here. Your seat was a little damp and a whole lot harder, but it was great to finally not be on your feet. You walked through the whole town, exploring the special place, and were running during the entire cash off the bridge game. Chiyu casually hung his leg over the side of the stairs. Darren pulled a knee up near his chest while the other leg was resting across the step. Tamarack planted her feet onto your and Chiyu's spot. She bumped both of you playfully with her boots. I gotta say, she pointed a finger in the air, calling the latest meeting of his club, even though Tamarack and you still were members. You had a really good idea, Tamarack. Smiling sweetly with her hands in her lap, Tamarack sincerely appreciated the praise. Thanks, Chiyu. However, Mr. Chiyu Lin might have initiated the discussion, but Tamarack brought it down to business. Who's the winner? We're all winners. He offered the idea optimistically, or maybe hopefully was a better word. In the end, Chiyu was the only one who never managed to get anything. No. His hopes were flatly denied. Littering in the forest and soft-hearted ideas of not choosing a single winner were two things Tamarack couldn't stand by. Somebody has to win, but... Oh, I think I missed it. What counts as winning? Oh, that's a tough call. Baxter had the most, but Tay and Darren did something pretty crazy. Should count for more than one catch for them. It's your game, Tamarack. Make up a point system. She crossed her arms and squeezed her knees together, showing the serious effort she was putting into thinking. Tamarack sat like a round nut waiting to be cracked. And what broke through was a devious smile. Baxter wasn't the only one who had that skill. If you caught it with your mouth, that's more points than catching a lot with your hands. But it doesn't count if you spit it out. Oh, gosh. Motherfucker, you out of your goddamn mind? No, I'm kidding. Darren's spine went regularly straight in an instant. Before scrunching down more than ever, he croaked defeatedly. This had gotten him more ruffled than when he hacked up the cashew. Tay is the only winner. Darren's fuzzy black clothes were balled into harmless-looking fists. He must have wanted to argue that his efforts should count for something. To be honest, I think it was an accident anyways. He was unable to put those words together right to a girl's face. That had to be exactly why Tamarack made the rules unfair against him. Baxter chuckled under his breath. The decision ruined his chances too. The many nuts he caught amounted to nothing. Clever. Though Baxter acted as if he didn't care a tiny cashew crumb if he won or lost, based on Tamarack's made-up rules that she had decided on after the game was already over. Congrats to Tay! Tamarack literally sang your praise. Tahoe wins! Tahoe wins! Tahoe wins! Well, that time you'd been on the winning side. The nice thing about games was you could enjoy when you did succeed, and you could have fun when you didn't, too. Darren continued to pout his nook the whole while. Thankfully for him, he had a pal who never let things stay sad for long. At least we can all agree we got last. Me. Chiyu shifted from angling for a no-win situation to confidently accepting his status at the bottom rung. That plan succeeded where his nut-catching strategy failed. It made Darren faintly smile. Chiyu gave a wink, not stopping there. You other guys are taller. That gave you the edge, don't forget. What about me? I'm basically the same size as you. Chiyu swapped tactics again without missing a beat. Those two are way older. Maybe you're just so good it's unfair to the rest of the world. Did you think of that one? There was laughter and lighthearted smiles up and down along the steps. It was just one of those days where everything was funnier than it was frustrating no matter what. Okay, Snack King, enjoy your spoils. Snack King gets to pick first. There's many unknown rules and regulations for the status of Snack King. You were learning a lot. Chiyu loudly stretched open the handles of the bag, holding its delicious delicacies out for Darren. He took his beef jerky. That was the last thing he needed to make him fully content again. Pass me the gummies. Baxter got his treat as requested. Then she moved on to you. Tay? You got some more jerky? Or am I going to be stealing it from Darren over here? A little. Cautiously put some chunks of jerky in your hand. She used Security's chips last before stuffing the store bag into a crevice on his step. You didn't even ask her if she didn't even eat anything. Took a nice big bite, immediately feeling rewarded for your choices. It was great. The group who planned the food detour easily settled into a snack-sharing semicircle. Baxter had bent over the stairs to be closer to the one sitting down. No boy was empty-handed, and no one of them limited just treat. They chose, Kieran Darren's clothes, completely coated in powdery snacks. It was then that Tamarack rejoined the conversation, chewing quietly, shifting through her fully stocked messenger bag while Chiyu had been diving up treats. Here's what I got. And what she got was a yellow rectangle. Ooh, the size of a large chocolate bar, though that wasn't chocolate. The bright-colored block made Chiyu giggle. But look, you didn't chuck that big thing at us. Are you sure? It would have been easy to catch. I'm sure. I'm alright with not catching anything. Darren couldn't help interrupting that back and forth with dubious curiosity. What is it? Fig cookies. Yeah, we're gonna be honest, we never heard of it. Tamarack tore open the wrapper with gusto. Then she slid out a light tan, couch cushion looking cookie. It was flat on the top and bottom with a dark brown filling in the center. Figs? That's nasty. Let me try. It is not nasty. It's good. You'll see. Here, take a piece. Tamarack pinched the top and pressed it down. Cookie was the soft kind, more like a snack cake. It smushed and bent until a chunk separated without a snap. Then she placed it in your hand, in your waiting palm. She looked up the latest exchange of goods. He scratched his cheek. Can I try it too? Sure. Thank you. Press a small section of the spongy cookie on down to Chiyu. I'd try a thick cookie. Another simple request came before she finished pulling her fingers away from Chiyu. Tamarack took a second to yank off a corner and stuff it into her mouth before nodding. She whittled the cookie away even more to share with Baxter. He tossed it in his mouth just like that. The one square was left on the bar. Then her snack almost got finished faster than any other. You take it. She didn't say his name, but her eyes were set directly on Darren's 2 steps lower. He's going to say no. He didn't react. Apparently, if you didn't address something, it wasn't there. Or he might not have even realized she was talking to him. Darren had changed his sitting position to take on the appearance of a folded chair. Not only were both his legs pulled up, but his arms were over his knees, and his face was lowered down into them. Damn, bro. Chiyu gave the back of Darren's blonde head a nudge. Anybody home? Without a word, Darren tilted his neck like he had during the game. Tamarack was already leaning over to dangle the last bit of cookie above his face. Carefully reached out and plucked the gift from Tamarack's hold as if he was picking a real fig off a branch. Made sense in a way. Tamarack's name was the type of tree. Thanks. Darren curled his fingers close to around his new cookie, kept staring upwards at Tamarack that had to be a record for the longest time he held eye contact with her. Yeah, a piece of jerky. Everybody can. Thank you, but I don't want that. Uh, oh. Before they could get real awkward, Tamarack's attention sparked on a different idea. Worked for Alfred Darren, though. She hadn't done it to smooth her bluntness over. Like that. She had a lot of energy. I have something else, too. And that something else, too, was the bare baggie of cashew dust taken from her overalls. Seeing her bridge that out now was more confusing than when she pulled it from her bag on the bridge. Tamarack snickered at the loss she'd left the group at and her own secret scheming. She poured the scraps into her hand and returned the now completely empty bag into the pocket it came from. Tamarack shot one of the tiny pieces right at Chio. Chio's defensive instincts kicked in, and he snatched it before it could hit his face. What was that about? You got one. A cashew that I threw. Chio gave a lopsided smile and ate the little piece. Guess I did. Thanks. Turmeric was sweeter than any cookie. Did I even try the fake cookie or whatever? Just go back to eating the same stuff. 67%? Dang. Hello, Carmen. The conversation took a turn when Chiyu chirped up with a question. So, what do you think? Of what? What else? You Turmeric a slick smile. Her attention was what he'd been trying to grab. The club. Oh. And she didn't say anything else. That was okay. She continued on himself. You've gotten to see what it's like, and it's pretty great, huh? You can still join if you wanna. Okay. Yes. She gave the air a 1-2 punch. He'd managed a real success that day. He was so proud to welcome you into his gang that neither of the existing members did anything that might have dampened their religious mood. Or was possibly that it wasn't about Chiyu, not just about him anyways. Maybe the two boys were okay with having you around after all. No matter the reason, you've been accepted as an official member of the boys' club. Now that leaves one person. Only one person was left out of that loop. Tamarack thought longer about the question that she had the first time Chiyu invited her. She gave it a real consideration. But the answer was different. Uh-oh. No. Oh. No thanks. Okay. At least, mostly. There had been development over the afternoon experience. Tamarack was quick to add it in. I still like you, Chiyu, and I like playing with Baxter and Darren. Really? Thanks. You do? Chiyu left, and right-hand boys were amazed. Baxter in amused disbelief, and Darren in that he didn't have a single clue what to do. It's kind of the same for you. You like Baxter more. Yeah, I like Baxter more. She became a calming force on the crowd, a steady rock against the winds of emotion, which was not usual for him. You know, that's cool. I think it makes sense for you, too. For you. It's the Tamarack way. That was the end of that day, and maybe forever. Chi managed to be at peace, not having everybody he knew in his official club. So you're partially a club and completely a group of kids hanging out at the bridge together. She took a turn trying to toss cheesy chips in Tamarack's mouth. She squealed every time she missed and whooped whenever she didn't. Baxter rested along the wall, watching the game with semi-interest. He batted away short shots that had misfired or bounced off of Tamarack. Darren nibbled on the last of Baxter's sour gums. He was keeping score while Chiyu and Tamarack kept their heads fully in the game. It was kind of like a picnic, except there was no blanket or basket, and it was a lot colder than what you usually imagine for a picnic. I think both of them. Yeah, thanks for showing me this special thing. You're welcome. Thanks for coming. You're welcome more. Can we ever do stuff at the same amount? No. Tamarack cheered. There'd be no compromising on that. Fine. Those two definitely did disagree on a lot of things, but it was equally certain that they were friends in their own silly way. And they were your friends, too. The day across the town, into the treasure chest store, up a mountain, and across the bridge could only be described as an adventure, and you were going to remember it for a long time. Uh-oh. Okay, so that was walks. And now we can do the wheels one. I see. Okay, bet. Go ahead and hit a quick little save right here. So that is walks done. And now we can go ahead and do wheels. I'm not going to lie. I am really curious to see the step 2 preview. If anything, I mean, this is still just the demo. We can always come back to it. But I really do want to see the step 2 preview. Because we might actually be done with the game here. Let's check the preview out. The demo includes a preview of step 2. Parts of the preview will be arranged differently in the final game. Saves made during the step 2 preview will not be loadable in the final version of the game. Let's see it. Let's see what these characters look like in there. What are they going to be? 14, right? There's all of our houses. We got me. Oh, my bad. Let's come to its end. You're heading into the grand land of teenagedom. Like always, you don't have to stick with the exact MC design you started with. Since you had a lot of time to grow, there's even more that can be updated. Once it officially begins, people of Golden Grove will already be used to it. Sure, when they didn't as a kid, you will have to have glasses for some time before they even step 2. Else. Everyone else in town will remember however things used to be, or if nothing's different. Parchments don't stop mattering just because the step has changed. It's complete whether Chiu and Tamarack are contesting, differing, or teamworking, and such will also depend on the past experiences you got together. This demo that doesn't happen, the system hasn't been built yet. Relationship as neighbors, friends, and or crushes will not automatically change based on normal choices throughout the story. You can do whatever you like and still be close or distant from the leads. Okay. Now that it's step 2 with the jealous over envious hold on. The jealous over and envious of meter have unlocked on the dynamic screen. You can use the system if you're at a neighbor status with the lead. As a reminder, the jealousy meter does nothing but let you add an extra element of drama in your life. A slight variation options. Both have 2 possible hairstyles, shorter or longer, and there are a couple of accessories they may or may not wear. Random, there's also a customization screen for each character to manually change their appearance. In this preview, the UI is not final yet. In the completed game, the characters' initial appearances will be influenced by their past experiences. Okay, that's everything you need to know for this next stage of your life. Hope you enjoy a glimpse into growing up in Golden Grove. Alright, so now we're, getting a little bit older and stuff. The face up can change or it can stay, if I'm honest with you. Let me keep the same eyes. Can I make my hair grow longer, you know? I mean, let's be honest, bro. Our hair is going to change regardless, because, you know, that's just kind of how it is. Let's go to the front as well. Yeah, let's go for something like this. Hold on, that might be like later endgame. Hold on, we might rock with that though. I'm not gonna lie. We gonna keep this actually. Let's get the bandage off now. We don't need the bandage on anymore. Our earrings can stay kind of the same. Nose rings. We're not getting a nose ring at 14. Holy crap. That's kind of crazy. My mother would never. You know what I'm saying? Our glasses. We got better glasses because, you know, we broke them, unfortunately. There's going to be a different shade and stuff. Yeah, we can go for, like, the blacks. Hold on. Give me 1 second, y'all. Oh my goodness, I love when you get like just got like a nice little scam call I had to like handle or whatever. Had to handle a nice little scam call. They're really trying to sell me on something, and I was like, bro, I'm good, man. My bad. That lasted for a hot minute. Yeah, they were like, bro, they were like so mad that I wasn't like trying to do what they wanted. I wish I could go and explain everything that was going on. They were not happy that I did not want to do what they wanted me to do. And I was like, yeah, man, I'm good. No, I'm good. You know, like they were like bringing me to like their representatives and their managers and stuff. I was like, I never agreed to any of it in the first place. So like, you know, I'm good though. You know, I appreciate it, but like, I'm good. And she was like, okay, we're going to go and close out your file. You know, you have a good day. I was like, you too. Bye. Anyways, back to our regularly scheduled program. We still have a whole hour left, by the way. Let's go ahead and hit our good old continue. We're still at a medium body type. I'll still keep like average height. You know, I say Tay. Tay should be like the short. Actually, shit. What I should have said was my name was. Oh, hold on. Taeho Holton, and then my nickname was Tay. Now that I'm thinking about it. No, use the nickname. That makes better sense, actually. He, him, male, still all the same. Yeah, okay. Mum, let's just use that. No more of that other stuff, bro. That was a complete mistake. I'm glad we were able to fix that. But I mean, you know, it is towards the end of the game. She got a different look on going and stuff. Since we're in like adulthood, not adulthood, we're like getting up there. We'll leave the blueberry muffins behind. We'll get into some shrooms. How about that? Actually, we'll do paper planes. I fly like paper, get high like. Sorry, I'm fixing my stream thing because it kind of messed up. I can't like split my Streamlabs and my TikTok chat anymore because like whenever I do it, the Twitch chat disappears. Even though there's nobody in Twitch chat, but still. All right, cool. There we go. Winter was a world of its own. The place you'd known had gone to sleep. Mom wished more than once that people could hibernate until spring the way bears did. Snow up on a mountain was worse than anywhere else in the state. It took hold of you whenever you were outside, trying to tug your shoes straight off your feet. That season, the cul-de-sac kids got rides to and from school. Chiyu's mom and Granny took turns. They would take you in the morning and get you again in the afternoon. Okay. Why should it look so gloomy? On lucky days, Mr. Lind would be the one who came at the end of the day, and sometimes your own mom. So y'all saw, right? Y'all saw that I picked Mom. I picked Mum. I didn't say use my mother's name. I said Mum. Your own Charlene could do it. Then there was that one time there'd be a huge misunderstanding, and the person who pulled up in front of your school was Mr. Bauman. It was a nightmare. What is this? Ballerina practice? The ballet recital thing happened. Chiu stole the whole show. No one else could follow along. It was like the other dancers hadn't been told what was going to happen next. Maybe they hadn't been. It seemed like Chiu made some of those moves up. The other Mr. and Mrs. Bauman came to visit for the first time for their daughter's favorite holiday, Christmas. Okay. Parents showed up in Golden Grove with bags over their shoulders and glasses on their faces. Tamarack looked just like them, and she looked miserable. They left after New Year's, only those two. Tamarack didn't go with her mom and dad. She stayed with her Omi and Opa. When that year wasn't so new anymore, you graduated elementary school. Mom brought you to the diner table. There we go. To celebrate after your first day of middle school. She always did. The two of you eventually reached regular status at the establishment. It helped that Yusuf, the friendly manager, became the new owner when the original one retired. He recognized you and Mom from the beginning, yeah? He might not have been next door, but you couldn't help getting to know Yusuf as much as you could know an adult anyways. You're not coming to my house, right? Days, weeks, months, the time took a rest on your shoulders, and they kept coming. A couple more years, and you weren't even a kid anymore. You emerged from a pile of torn-off calendar pages as a teenager. Add one extra year, and you graduated again. You were 14 years old. You were about to begin high school. Damn, that's crazy. You know, high school was so long ago for me, I forgot that. I'm thinking, like, I got into high school at, like, 18, but that's when I left. Yeah, it really was 14. Damn, 14-year-olds are really high schoolers. You do whatever you want. Rules. Oh, my bad. Rules didn't matter anymore. You wouldn't let anyone tell you what to do again. You had to be on your best behavior. No. You're basically grown up. You could do whatever you want. Yeah, we're a rebellious old teen, you know. Life might have changed rapidly for you, but it seemed like once you hit certain points of being old, stuff stayed consistent much longer. Mom and Mr. Lin had the same jobs. Miss Bauman kept on being retired. Mr. Bauman continued to pretend he was retired while working on the side. That wasn't the only way to go. Miss Lin had new opportunities ahead. While her only child prepared for 9th grade, she was getting ready to rejoin the workforce. Okay. You met brand new people as you got older, and the limits on your life faded. Serenity, Fianca, and many other schoolmates. Hold on now. We're gonna say, we can say spunky, but it's like polite spunky. I'm gonna say polite. Tamarack's social circle expanded too. Uh-oh. You could fill several novels with memories of a little girl in the neighborhood on her own with you, with Chiyu, or both of you. And she was still around, but Tamarack had a lot more to consider these days than if she could be in her backyard or the forest clearing. There were also people you didn't meet. The infamous boys club disbanded a long time ago. Chi Lin, Ren Murray, Baxter Ward, and you. Ren Murray. So what happened to the other dude? Ren went by Ren only, and had for a year. Calling him by his full name was strange. Not even Ren's parents did it. The relationship between Chiyu and Ren was a knotted thread of history. Sometimes it tense, sometimes it slacked, but it had yet to snap. It was different when it came to Baxter. Their shared friendship with him ended. Officially, he dyed his hair dark gray. He dyed his dark hair gray to pure black and stopped coming around after a while. The age gap between him and the rest of you was a chasm that couldn't be crossed anymore. Chiyu didn't remember the last time Baxter had been on Acorn Road. Oh well, it was gonna happen sooner or later. After the group disbanded, when Chiyu was no longer the boy who led a club named after the trait, Chiyu began to realize something. They weren't a boy. Chiyu wasn't sure what they identified with, but they could say it wasn't that. For now, all people needed to know was not to call them by anything gendered. Okay, as for you, everyone knew your name. You told everyone ages ago. Figured out your new name recently about the same time as Chiyu had. Everyone knew you by Tahoe now. Oh shit, that's true. Well, that's not fair. Well, I should have put that as my name. Putting off sharing your own identity. You know what? It's the same name. That's just how it looks. Whatever. Summer vacation didn't last forever. Days of sunshine grew short and cold. Gray clouds gathered on the horizon. Hashtag monarch. Hashtag they is okay. Hey! And then fall settled over Golden Grove once again. Hi, I'm just chilling. The storybook-esque depiction of autumn went to the very root of the forest and the heart of the town, as the whole land glistened in its namesake color. It's been nearly 4 years to the day since you moved there, into the tan houses with the white picket fence in the center of the cul-de-sac. The trees grew in taller and thicker. Mom got a chair for the porch, and the mailbox had to be replaced after an incident. But other than that, not much had changed with the outside of your home. What is the incident? One might have said the building was worse for wear after nearly 1,500 extra days of weathering the elements, but for how old it already was when you got there, that was nothing. Nothing for a house pushing 40 anyways. 4 years of your life was closing in on a third of your existence, and that first third you could scarcely remember since you were a baby, and then a toddler for most of it. So it works out that nearly half the memories you'd make and kept were from right here, in this house, in this neighborhood, in this town. You lived in this one place longer than anywhere. Nah, you were safe there, content, life was good. Having a day of certainty couldn't be complained about. You didn't want constant changes or to never know what would happen next. You wanted what you had, peace and comfort. You realized it even at 10 years old that feelings had settled over you like a comfy blanket. Since the first fall, this place was home. You've been down each path and road, seen every bush and tree, entered all the publicly accessible and even some not technically public buildings hundreds of times. There was something indescribably precious about that. It couldn't be replicated. Though I didn't mean the world was static, there were shifts that rippled out and impacted your experience, but each one felt natural. The transition of seasons brought about an entirely different atmosphere. There were sights and sounds and feelings that could only happen during a few months before they were gone for a year. Other familiars were lost to time for good, never to come back, instead for their absence to eventually become old in their own right. You knew the acorns were beginning to fall along with the leaves, and that Bob's barber shop on Main Street closed 8 months ago, and that every day there was a new rumor on what was going to replace it. Nothing concrete had been announced yet, but any day now for sure. Miss Bauman was stubbornly convinced it'd be a restaurant, an Italian restaurant. The town needed one of those, she would insist. Yeah, that was about what she thought. What actually happened, and more what she wished would come to be. Circumstances were never as perfectly straightforward as stuff that was the same, and things that were different, or what you could be certain of, in what you were believing in. You could have a piece of your world that had been ever present, something that hadn't gone away for a moment, yet right before your eyes it could stop being what you originally know. That's facts. The example that came to your mind that you had been imagining from the beginning was your left and right next door neighbors. Both Chio and Tamarack were the same people you'd seen basically every day for 4 years. No single one of those days did you decide they weren't Tamarack or Chio anymore. Of course, they always were literally who they were. But after everything they learned and seen from the basic concept of getting older, the two were pulled into certain directions. Little by little, it couldn't be caught looking back a week or a month. Still, if you paused to remember them from your first meetings and compared that to who you expected to encounter that day, you could see it clearly, starkly. They had changed. First, a childhood playmate, Miss Tamarack Bauman, she had become a young lady. Her reckless romps through the woods shifted into quiet nature walks. The neat clothes she carefully selected weren't suited for that kind of exploring anyways, and she was not okay with them getting full of holes like she was as a kid. She approached most things in life with great delicacy, like she was living in a world of glass, or less whimsically, as if she was always walking on eggshells. Tamarack joined the music program during school and had played the cello ever since, a feat that required plenty of patience and a ton of sitting around. But all those new options, priorities, and decisions didn't speak to any level of decisiveness on her part. It wasn't just that loss of pure wild abandon only someone too young to know better could have. Tamarack didn't have a shred of the certainty she used to. Some days, in some ways, she could come across more like her almost 70-year-old grandparents than a girl not even a quarter of their age. The moment she leaned into typical teen priorities more than anyone else in her class, or than other moments, and neither seemed to make her particularly confident. What bits in peace were truly Tamarack? Maybe all of them, maybe none. She had managed to convince most people that there was a clear picture they could accept and understand as her. Probably because she didn't understand herself either, or she couldn't bring herself to commit to what she did know. So for 4 years so 4 years on, and she'd yet to blend into the harmony of this close-knit community. If Tamarack was in a room, odds were good she'd be the least acquainted person there. Wherever she went, Miss Bauman carried herself with the presence of a visitor, never a regular. There we go. 1 or 2. You know, I kind of like the short hair still. I think I like the ribbon in her hair more. You can automatically set you and Tamarack's dynamic towards you, as well as your own dynamic with each of them. Okay, this includes the newly available jealousy meter, which will always begin as not jealous and must be manually changed, and would like to add those aspects to your playthrough. You can also choose one character to be best friends with. One person can be your best friend, but you can be platonic best friends or best friends while crushing on one another. Best friends of one character signals you have a close relationship to them than other characters. Alright, cool. So it's already set to crushes, and I'm fine with that. I think I actually set that crushes. We're gonna keep on crushes. Contesting, praising, accepting. Let's say I'm also accepting now that I'm like growing up and stuff. Still teasing. What does dotting do again? I forgot what dotting does. I think I'm gonna make her like you like easily. Is that what that means? Well, you could admire someone. See, I kind of want her to be more admiring. I want to have her be like more admiring. Oh, here we go. You can take care of or look out for the other person. You tend to see the other person on the same level as you. You see the person as more... Okay. Generally keep your thoughts on others to yourself. You like to make jokes or give the other person a hard time. You go out of your way to casually, potentially, flirtatiously compliment the other person. You are a follower or prefer to go with the flow. You are a collaborator, crosshair. I want to say I'm contesting. I'm pretty contesting now. I'm still kind of teasing. What does accepting do again? Maybe a little dotting. She could be admiring. She definitely is praising. So she does like to have a bit of a team. I'm gonna say she's more teamworking, if anything. Not jealous. Not jealous of anything. Hold on. Praising, unassuming, and what else? She goes out of her way to casually or potentially first comment you. Yeah. Because she does like to be, like, you know, kind of loud and stuff. We could make her accepting. But I think I'll keep admiring. And then, yeah, we're not envious of each other. Okay. I think that works. One thing was certain, at least. You'd be there for her. She'd be there for you, too. People in town were wrong. Tamarack wasn't a nobody. She was special. She'd always been special, especially to you. She was a little girl who threw a paper airplane at you first time she ever caught sight of you. Tamarack and you went through being newcomers side by side. No matter how much the two of you grew up, your promise to care about each other remained unbroken. You wouldn't abandon her through whatever future unknown you might face. She's a good friend, but I think Chiyu fits more as my best friend. That was the whole story. Tamarack was a precious pal. You might not be friends exactly, but she mattered to you in an important way. Only think such things deep down. It was not how you normally acted around her. You had such a crush on her. There was no pretending yourself. Sure, we'll say I have a crush on her. Yeah. That's why she was so special. You were over the moon for the guy. Okay, alright. Maybe not that. Come on now. We weren't 100% sure what she thought about you, though. Yeah, we'll say that. She like you back? You can only imagine. Because you're more than neighbors with someone, you will get to make an extra choice about your relationship, whether or not you're comfortable with automatic physical interactions. These are moments in the script where Chiyu and Tamara can potentially show affection and closeness through touching without you initiating it yourself, but they will know you well enough to avoid that if you're the type of person who doesn't like it. You can determine if embrace and snuggles and everything is fine, or if you only accept more brief and playful interactions like a pat on the back. It's possible to want to space under normal situations, but be okay with being comforted in difficult moments, or set it so Chiyu and her Tamarack will never touch you on their own. Hey, 410. Your choices here won't remove options to touch the leads from you. It only determines whether the lead believes you were fine with them touching or not. Bumming each other and lean on one another. Yeah, we'll say that. Now second, the companion of your youth, Miss M or MX, Chiyu Lin. They didn't introduce themselves like that to people anymore. Whether a person could spell their name or not wasn't the problem. If someone didn't know that, they didn't know Chiyu, and why should they care what a stranger believes about them? Part of them that made sure to spell out were their pronouns, they, them. Chiyu was born and raised in Golden Grove, a local through and through. And not merely any kid in town, they were the one to take center stage. The one to reach out. Chiyu made themselves ever present in the minds and hearts of the community. No matter what Chiyu said or did, each person they crossed paths with would be as familiar with them as the gender they were assigned at birth. She wasn't sure about what they identified with, but they could say defensively it wasn't that. If they wanted to be free of that misconception, she had no choice other than to keep explaining again and again, person to person. They hated it. Going through introduction themselves in a way so people would immediately get it could still put things together was cute, and eventually when they were in elementary school. As a 9th grader, it was embarrassing. A lot of what Chiyu believed in as a kid seemed to be just that now, kid stuff. At the tippy top of their list of childish ideals was the very concept of trying. Chiyu stopped putting in effort with their classes. Oh gosh, started skipping ballet lessons, and they did not go out of their way to make others feel welcomed. No, they rebuffed nearly anyone who dared wish for time in their presence. If Chiyu didn't already like someone, 0 opportunities would be given for that opinion to change. Okay. Despite going from the most approachable face in town to completely unavailable, Chiyu remained extremely popular in school. The chill that overtook their demeanor only made them cooler, apparently. Okay. Let's see. I'm gonna keep the hair long, because Chiyu always had long hair. I see Chiyu with earrings, I'm not gonna lie. Okay, and we have choker or no choker. It's like a skin color choker. Why is it like... I'm gonna go without it, but I'm gonna keep the earrings and the long hair. Okay, Chiyu. In voice acting or something. Yeah, I'd be a perfect voice actor. So, for right now, me and Chiyu are best friends. Obviously, I'm already crushing on Tamarack. It'd be kind of weird if I was crushing on both of them. It could change though later on, guys, when the full game is released. Relax. You never know. See, okay, that tells me a lot about what Chiyu should be like now. Chiyu's a follower or prefers to go with the flow. I don't feel like that. Like, I felt like Chiyu was a pretty teamworking. But also the whole contesting thing. You know what? This is my relationship to Chio now. Chio was also pretty contesting. I like listening to Chio, so I'm gonna listen to Chio for sure. Um, we do be teasing back and forth low key. I'm not gonna lie. Um, Generally keep your thoughts on others to yourself. Out of your way to casually potentially compliment the other person. I still admire Chio. I'm gonna say Chio is accepting of me, but I am admiring of Chio. And I'm not envious. I do like Chio's design though, for sure. Um, is there anything to be jealous of them over? Are they jealous of me? Are they envious of me? Do you want to add that in? She was envious of the life, appearances, abilities, relationships, or other things that you have. If someone is spending a lot of time with you or seems to like you. I'm not gonna lie, I feel like I should pick one of these two. Because obviously Chiyu is having a hard time expressing themselves, you know what I'm saying? And I'm obviously having an easier time, whatnot. Chiyu also apparently is like blocking off their friends and stuff and, you know, being a lot more of like a lone wolf. Whereas I'm pretty sure I'm pretty good at making friends right now. Are they jealous or envious of me? I have discomfort if someone is spending a lot of time. I'm gonna say jealous. I don't want to say envious. That sounds a little too rude. I'm gonna say jealous. But we are best friends. I'm gonna say that. It'd be a massive understatement to say things were different. So of course your own relationship with Chio wasn't immune to the shifts that happened over the years. Though definitely not in the ways someone might have expected. Chio wasn't merely a neighbor, and they were only a friend. Chio was your best friend. While Chio closed themselves off to other people more and more, a genuine bond grew between you and them until no one else was there for you more than they were. Ironic, yeah, but you were grateful for it. And of course, you've done the same thing in turn. Chiyu knew that they could rely on you, that they could trust you. A small circle of their fond familiarities had you at its very center. Chiyu was happy to drape themselves over you completely. There was no reason to stay at a distance. It wasn't unusual for you and Chiyu being close. You'd poke and nudge each other all that. Chiyu didn't reach out to touch you. You didn't want them to. It was only different. When things got difficult, she made it clear that you didn't want to be randomly touched. Now, we'll say this one. Step 2. Let's do this. Anyways, that was sinking further into your psyche than you should. You decided while shaking yourself out of a daze. You were at home sitting on a lumpy chair that tried its best to be a shade other than tan, which it was. It needed a good con man to call itself cream orange or pale yellow. The building creaked without anybody doing anything. A ticking and talking tapped at the back of your head. The place you lived was sort of the third member of the Holden family. It had its own way of being in a long-time quirks while still taking after the parents and brother it received. In the time you lived there, you'd added a few of your own nicks and scratches to the house. Some old furniture was placed with brand new old furniture from the local antique store and thrift shop. The wall clock was from the former, and the lamp was found at the latter. Chiu said once you couldn't tell the difference between what was sold in those places, it was ancient either way. However, the gap in quality between the two was easy for you to see. Your wandering gaze went down towards the decorative branches in a vase, a cold fire of brown red leaves, another sign of autumn. From there, you kept going until your focus was finally back on what you were doing. The tabletop was piled with books, packets, pencils, and stuff. And magically all had to fit into a single bag. Plus, leave room for lunch. You began packing for school tomorrow. It wasn't any normal day of school, it was your first day. And it wasn't any normal start of a new year. This was 9th grade. You were a high school freshman. Mom impressed upon you what an accomplishment it was. If the learning system was triathlon, you were out of the water, off a bike, and lining up to begin the race. Your Charlene wasn't especially sporty herself, So she offered as an alternative that if this was a movie or book, the third act would be just beginning. That was the best part. For as much as Mom hyped it up, your transition into the highest level of public schools wasn't as immense as it was for other 14-year-olds. You've been attending Riverview Peak since grade 6 already, with its gold, black, and navy official colors and beloved freshwater otter mascot. The district of Golden Grove was small enough that middle school and high school shared the building. It was always if you had school and you could stick with that until graduation. Yeah, real acquainted with those walls. You nudged a 20-page schedule between the two textbooks, hoping it wouldn't get completely crumbled. The beginning of class wasn't the only special occasion happening tomorrow. Golden Grove's middle and at the same time high school started slightly different than its elementary school did. The semester your first day of school shared this semester your first day of school shared the same date as your anniversary of moving here. It'd been 3 years and 364 days since your life became what it was. Then there was a groan. The house let you know you had company. Mom came out from the kitchen. She kept some distance, staying under the opening arch of the room, and gave the side of her light-washed jeans a pat. Her shirt was a fall floral blouse. Ironically, she looked as fresh as a spring bloom. Good morning. Mom had let her hair get longer lately. Besides a trim every few months, it got to just keep growing. That was new. Though she still wore red opals wherever she went. Right now, she was having a necklace moment. The stone hanging from her neck looked nearly pried from a mine shaft. No perfect teardrop shaped or flawless angles. It was natural. There we go. Thinking of her, who she was as a person, who she was to you, you felt things were good between you and her. You got along on stage. She was your friends, watched parenting, it was fun. Yes. You and her were still the Holton duo, taking life on as a team. In fact, that had only gotten truer as the time went by, since you'd gotten old enough to be more an actual help to her. It was cool. You never jump to go on Charlene's son activities, but there was a mutual understanding between you and her that kept the peace as much as possible. Quick question. If you're going to get your own cell phone, what color would you want? A cell phone? You never had a phone your entire existence, and your same age neighbors already did. Really? Chew got their phone at 11 as soon as they were in middle school. It saved Mr. and Miss Lynn a bunch of hassle from all the people who called the house or their own cell phones only to ask about Chiyu. Though these days, Chiyu ignored practically every call they got, including from their parents. Send it in a text if you want a response. That was their way of life. Tamarack's mom and dad brought her one when she was 13, officially a teenager. It was a sore spot in the Bauman family. Miss Bauman, the elder, didn't think that gadget was necessary. They're more of a distraction than anything else, she declared loud enough for the whole neighborhood to hear. This town was small and safe. She wondered what the younger Mr. and Miss Bauman thought could ever even happen. After her husband reminded Miss Bauman that Tamarack's main way of communicating with her parents was over the telephone lines, the fight stopped. Are you serious here? It's gonna happen? You finally be able to text with your friends. She chuckled. I'm thrilled that you're excited. I've been saving up. Phones get pricey over 6 months, and then there's the monthly fees, and so on. Mom didn't expand on the so on, steadily pushing her hand in front of her. Her son knew the value of $1 already. You never had the chance not to. But you're in high school now. You should have a phone. High school. That was the Holton family's milestone for gifting their youth with a phone. Each household on the street had a different answer for the same thing. Of course, I'm taking you to the store with me. I'm not going to choose it for you. I'll have to sneak out of work for a bit early for this. We'll need to go to the next town over to get the best selection, and I want this done before tomorrow. Wait, how early is early? I'm seeing Chiyu and Tamara today. You can't wait for some other time either? Tamara, or I can't wait for some other time either. Tamara had been on pins and needles waiting to talk to her parents before the start of the school year. She wouldn't so much as look at a phone until you were there. And she hadn't left the house for days. You had to go over there and make sure they weren't dead. Never get notifications for live? Yeah, I'm live almost every day at 9. I mean, it is unfortunate though. TikTok doesn't really let people know. Don't worry, this doesn't mean you've got to flake on seeing your friends. I know you want to see them. I'll swing around and pick you up late afternoon, early evening. Thereabout. You'll have time for it all. Okay, it's gonna be a busy day. Thank you, dear. She appreciated it wholeheartedly. Take care. You too, have a good day at work. You gave Mom off with a wide arc of your arm. She threw on a yellow cardigan, the most vibrant piece of clothing in her entire wardrobe. Which y'all know about a cardigan. I don't know how to do the dance, but I can do the dance, especially not sitting down. And went out the front door. You couldn't hang around much longer yourself. With the whirlwind of motion, you shoved supplies into your bag. You knew what you had to do next. You had a schedule. Chiyu and Tamarack weren't going to casually be in the same place at the same time. You wished, but now, over the years, you learned how to balance seeing both of your friends. Tamarack wasn't going to call her parents until later, so you were going to Chiyu's house first. I'm going to call her parents any minute, so you're going to her house first. I'm going to say, yeah, Tamarack first. Give me 1 second. I forgot I have, like, plans with one of my friends. I have to, like, let them know. Shit, what time is a good question? How does... Alright, there we go. Sorry, I had to like make sure I got that. Senior pack morphed into a balloon of compressed knowledge, a year's worth of reading and pens and things forced into a single spot. The zipper strained to keep it all in. Not on the top, it felt like a solid mass against your knuckles. Well, you did good with that. You left it there and left the house. It was cold, obviously. It was cold. That didn't stop you. You were focused on your mission, pressing ahead, step by step. You cut across the lawn, went through the gate, and stood inside the cul-de-sac. From there, you headed left. The gray porch of the Baumans was stop number 1. You reached the front of their house and rang the bell. There's no bell here, by the way. No, I'm kidding. Nancy came immediately. Coming! Hold your horses! A series of thumps followed the shouts. You didn't have any horses, you chuckled to yourself. The door swung inwards. Wafts of perfume after a long, worn-out breath escaped through the opening. That trip down the main hall got longer every year, as the woman in front of you would swear. That was your grandma right there. You didn't mind her much. It was hard to know. You expected. School lady. My bad. No, that was your grandma right there. And she was still granny. She was granny to you. More. You had your own word for that. You'd gotten too old to call Miss Bromley granny like you did as a kid. No, I'll still call her granny. Dressed as glamorously as ever with a poofy blouse and a statement belt buckle, that golden double loop acted as her anchor. She always needed something to keep her grounded. I'm looking for non-existent bell, I know, right? Besides, Granny could never be too old to get dolled up. It didn't matter that her knees didn't work the way they used to, and the last hints of blonde had faded from her hair. She also had to chop the ends of several months ago. Oh, the split ends had gotten out of control, though her hair had been so long moving inches still left plenty. Pure white strands framed muted red eyes. Granny leaned her cheek into the door frame. She shared a smile for a hello. I didn't know you and Tamarack had plans, but that's good. Perfect timing. I told Opal recently how lucky she was to have such a kind-hearted child. I say the same about Tamarack. Lord knows there are some rebel-rousers out there that... She stopped herself and shook her head. The ribbony bit on her shirt flapped like a flag of surrender. That doesn't matter. You're not here to talk me to... You're not here for me. You're not here for me to talk your ear off. You're here for your friend. Tamarack is in the backyard of all things. I suggest you go right around the house. That'll get you to her. Great plan. If you cut through the house, you might reach the other side with one less ear. Have a good day, Angel. Granny shut the door behind her. You turned the other way and hopped off the porch. The bomb in backyard, huh? You saw it all the time out the window and from your own yard, but it's been ages since you stepped foot in there. You didn't because Tamarack didn't. How awkward would it be if you went into her backyard by yourself? Tamarack had gone over every inch of that patch of earth 100 times. There was no magic left to find. She'd outgrown her childhood playground like a growing tree in a too small pot. You shimmied between their mailbox and the bushes guarding your house. Mom kept those trimmed. They weren't as wild as when you moved in. That didn't mean they were small, and you weren't a kid anymore. Leaves tickled your chin as you passed by. Branches brushed your chest. Your house was psyching you up for the day. You got through the gap and rounded the corner. A narrow path opened onto the edge of a far-reaching forest. Nothing changed. And this got these old-ass... This tire swing is definitely broken. The line between the woods and the backyard was clear. Mr. and Mrs. Bauman made sure the land they were paying for stayed in tip-top form. Didn't matter that the people living there only enjoyed its beauty, maybe a couple times a month. What if a guest saw their grass with less than flawless form? Concern for others didn't mean they were going to replace perfectly good patio furniture. It had been 4 years and they still had the same table and chairs. And you bet money those were already old when you first saw them. There was something new there, though. A bag sat nicely on the tabletop. Tamarack's childhood messenger bag had to join the Bauman's collection of antiques that were to be seen, not touched, before it fell apart completely. The new pretty pack could hold just as much as the original. It was also mostly brown again. The strap, top flap, and bottom support all were. The center was pastel pink. Miss Bauman got it for her lovely young granddaughter, and she had assured everyone that Mr. Bauman helped. You shift your focus over to the charmer. Hey! This thing is gonna snap, bro. I've seen Bridge of Terabithia. You gulped. Under the shade of a tree, in the gloom of a cloudy day, she's still dazzled. You've never been able to ignore it. Tamarack sat motionlessly on the tire swing her grandparents had made for her. She had her arms wrapped around the rope, tied in a bow. The tips of her pink boots dragged against the ground. That was where she was staring to, at the dirt. Heavy bangs covered a third of her face. A ribbon delicately hung on the side of her head. Tamarack's hair stayed short, just like the rest of her. She actually had it cut a little shorter than when she was a kid. Instead of letting it be a total puffball, she styled her strands into soft waves. She hadn't bothered to put on a coat. A purple knit sweater over some kind of lacy trimmed shirt was enough. That was Tamarack Bauman, though you always knew her by her nickname. Very people got to do that. The nickname was... Wow, I just realized that we never actually got her a nickname. Tammy's a pretty good one. What if we called her Rack? That sounds crazy. No, I'm not going to call her Rack. I will not call a woman Rack. Tama sounds terrible. Tam is something. T is... I don't know, like her... T... Tammy is also good. What if I give her like a nickname based on her hair? See, Autumn is already Autumn, you know what I'm saying? Chiyo's nickname is like Autumn or whatever. What if I want to call her like Fall? No, I'm not gonna call her that. Damn, I don't know what to call her. Orange? See, I was gonna say something like I want to do something like color based. Because they mentioned her hair and how like it was colorful and stuff. I don't remember what exact details they used though. Um, like Tammy's a good name. I'm not calling her Ginger. We are not calling her Ginger. That is my soul is. No. You know what? We'll just call her Tammy. Well, we'll call her Tammy. No. I've been watching a lot of Lost recently. Call me Sawyer. Because I got nicknames out the wazoo. Seems like this was a glasses day. Wide frame rested against her nose. When Tamarack had to get braces, she insisted on having contacts too. She could not live with both of those at the same time. But Tamarack didn't like wearing contacts either. Contacts were only worth the annoyance if she was going somewhere with lots of people. He walked over to the rock pathway. She heard you coming. Tamarack glanced up. Oh, dude, what are you talking about? Tamarack's tense features could stop a smile from spreading over the cheeks. Teho! Freckles! This is... Man, I'm gonna hate this so much. Freckles! I kind of regret calling her Freckles, bro. This sounds crazy. We gotta deal with it, I guess. I made the choice. I gotta deal with it. She lurched forward with a burst of motion, reaching out towards you. The tire she dangled on swung with that energy. He went over before she could fall further away than where she began. He walked forward and back in time with the swing's arch. He stood at the side of the swing trying to get hit. Just to see baddies? What do you mean? Tamarack kept on rocking. She looked brighter and brighter each time she passed you. Oh, you like her so much. You made it. Her hair fluttered in the breeze. Of course I did. You ready to talk to your parents? She nodded, her jaw set firmly. I'm gonna call my mom. I'll do it fast. I forgot that's how I used to have her name. Mr. and Mrs. Bauman, the younger, you'd met them. They wanted to see Tamarack's friends the first time they visited. Whenever they visited since then, you'd seen them again. You were always with Tamarack. You really bumped into them since. No, we're gonna see we hadn't really bumped into them. Until I see them myself, I did not see them. Tamarack gripped the rope hard, narrow eyebrows, shoved her eyes nearly closed. Tamarack plucked her naturally bushy brows. We have enough to worry about already. High school is starting tomorrow. Who knows what Mom might try to bring up if I had to call by myself. Words came out frazzled and emphasized in a bunch of different places. Then she sighed. Tamarack unpeeled one of her tightened fists and adjusted the crooks of her arm to make sure she didn't fall right out of the tire. Thanks for letting me drag you into this. Tamarack sighed again. Her head drifted lower and lower until her chin rested against the rubber. Despite the unsteadiness of her position, she was now secure. Clutched your throat and faked dying. The situation sucked. Tamarack would do that herself if she wasn't nervous. So it was up to you. It made her grin. A real grin, with her lips parted and everything. Oh. Ever since Tamarack had those braces put on, she almost never smiled with her teeth. You knew how self-conscious she was about them, but that rule went away when it was safely just the two of you. But Tahoe? She rolled her face over, squishing a cheek into the grooves of her tire. No effort was being expended. My phone is in the bag over there. Leggings don't have pockets. She's already going through the struggles of being a woman. That's tough. Y'all don't get pockets, bro. That's a right that women just don't have. She kicked a leg towards the table 10 feet away from her. The swing weakly twirled around. Tamarack attempted to keep eye contact with you during the spin. Could you get it for me so I don't have to climb out of this thing, please? Yeah, I was wondering about mysteries. Let me see inside your bag. That's right, you can see because you're special. You were? But the phone was right on top. Don't dig around in there. Thanks so much for being super extra special. Tamarack stayed sitting pretty while you fetched her needed tool. If Granny's throne was the green drawing room chair, the tire swing was Tamarack's. You undid the flap of her bag, itching for the reveal. Inside was a smudge-free smartphone. The screen winked at you with a glint of light. It was ready to be collected. You grabbed it, and the seconds you needed to lift the phone and close the bag, you took stock of Tamarack's stuff. A lip gloss, hairbands, her wallet tucked into a side pocket, a white box, probably a first aid kit. There's an unopened bag of something from the corner store tucked into the corner. Could have been chips or cookies. You couldn't make out the logo. Dang, nothing juicy. See, I know women, so I know. Anyway, like that's not. It's so funny because that's treated as like some kind of like super special secret thing, but it's like, brother, we know how puberty works. Like, yeah, you're gonna have to use those at some point. But I guess obviously, like when you're younger, it's like seen as like weird and crazy and stuff. It's like, wow, why do you have that in your bag? Coming. Pull yourself away from the table and pass Tamarack her phone. Thank you. Tamarack scrolled across the screen and then she typed. She put her phone to her ear and waited. It rang repeatedly. Miss Bauman, not Granny, did answer. You guessed she had, anyways. Tamarack's face was suddenly covered with a stiff mask of the real thing. If that wasn't enough of a clue, she started talking. Hi, Mom. Thanks for doing this. Tahoe is here, too. We've been hanging out. Tamarack held the phone towards you, carefully not to shove it in your face. Hello. See? Miss Bauman couldn't see anything. She heard it. Mom says hello to you, too. Mm-hmm. And so your role in this ended. You done what you could. The rest was on Tamarack. She bobbed her head while you listened to a list of generally pleasant replies. Yep, that's right. Don't worry. She didn't say for the New Year check-in. The big day of class hadn't happened yet. Tomorrow it could be a perfect afternoon, or she could get trapped in a bush and miss the entire thing. From the side of the conversation you got to hear, her mom never strayed from the safe subject of school, which means there was less to discuss. The closer Tamarack got to getting to wrapping this up, the higher her pitch got. I love you. Tell Dad I love him too. Bye. Tamarack tapped the red button on her screen with a thumb. Then she collapsed all over the tire. It was like that one painting with the melted clocks that teachers and YouTubers like to show. Tamarack's limbs were practically dripping off her. Something like that was wrong. She looked so out of place. You couldn't help but pause there and acknowledge how wonderful it was that Tamarack was still there. Living with her Omi and Opa was meant to be temporary. It had already been nearly half the decade. Her parents kept in touch and they visited, sometimes more, sometimes less. That inconsistency meant that there was never a sense of normalcy around them, no matter how many months went by. As soon as things were calm enough that you thought Tamarack was going to be in Golden Grove forever, her parents would become so re-involved it was as if they'd be packing her bags any day. You lived with a thorn stuck in your chest, one that dug in deeper with each passing season, no matter what, and every so often got jabbed by the unexpected. Maybe that had something to do with why Tamarack came across like an outsider. People were holding their breath around here, bracing for when it wouldn't be a false alarm, for when she'd be gone. And you knew for sure that Tamarack struggled with seeing her own presence in that light. She told you about it. How much longer would Tamarack Bauman be living right next door? Slowly, Tamarack disentangled herself from the tire swing, one leg coming after the other, not letting go of the rope too soon. Nobody needed her to faceplant right now. The swing did as it was made to do. Swing. But Tamarack got onto her feet. The first thing she did with her freedom was to turn her phone to her bag. She stood with her back to you, staring at herself for any sudden movements. Parents never call back. They wouldn't. They wouldn't text her so soon after a chat either. But what if they did? But they didn't. Tamarack twisted her head to the side. You could see her face again, part of it at least. The few inches that weren't covered by her hair or shoulders, or weren't completely impossible to make out from your point of view. She smiled. That was enough. We did it! Nice work, Freckles. You too. Mr. and Miss Bauman, the parents. Guess you could Separate the Miss and Mr. Bauman you knew from the ones you'd barely seen by calling them Doctor 1 and Doctor 2. Ooh. Timrock's mom and dad were both PhD holders and researchers. Oh, shit. They mentioned they were in the process of getting that when you met. At this point, they'd gotten the degrees. You'd be okay getting to know them better. You wanted to like them, though they didn't give you a lot to work with. So you should come to town more often. You like that, and Timrock probably would too. Yeah, like I barely know him. Timrock tugged at the end of her shirt. You've been quiet for a while. Oh! She made a beeline for the swing. Timrock darted behind it and held on both hands. She pushed it towards you. It's the second time she'd done that. Here, you can have a turn. It doesn't have to just be me who uses it. Timrock wielded the tire like it was the steering wheel for her life, and like it, someone somehow controlled your future too. I could push you, or... She leered at you from over the tire. I could spin you. Spinning a tire swing? What a wild child. Spin me. Yeah, spin me. Go for it. Do it. Yeah, alright. She kept her hold strong. I've got it. Get in. Climb on top with your legs dangling over the edge. Climb on top with your legs crossed around the rope. Should you be on top of it or like inside? Well, I guess it doesn't matter. You sat in the center of the tire. Yeah, I want to do it this way. This is actually more fun. That was not made for teenagers. This was not made for teenagers. It amazed you how low to the ground it was. You weren't tall by any stretch, but your knees were still dragging in the dirt. You folded your legs back and lifted. Hopefully they'd let Timrock move this thing. Timrock twisted the tire sideways, little by little. That was your only warning. Then she snapped the swing. You did a 360 and she hit the tire again and again. Timrock kept catching the edge of the tire, propelling you into a propeller motion. Your world was blurry. Your cheeks pulled away from the rest of your face. A buzz went through your body each time her palm made contact with the rubber. The energy you and her were generating could power the whole neighborhood. Hi, Freckles. Bye, Freckles. Hi, Freckles. Bye, Freckles. Woman, all your cares were shaken out of your ears. The breeze filled your ears, until a hollow thump did. The swing stopped dead. Oomph! Timrock hooked her arm through the center. You held tight to the swing. Timrock took the hit, but you were the one who got jostled. She didn't budge. Sorry. Following her sight line brought your attention to the house. Oh, hello, Unc. The back door had opened. Standing in the doorway, framed by it like a life-size vintage photo, was Mr. Bauman. Hello. He gave a tip of the hat to you, the exact same thing he had 4 years ago. His jacket hadn't been replaced either. The vest and pants set he wore came from the thrift store. Even that part of the outfit wasn't newly made. Mr. Bauman's family picked it out for him, blue to make his eyes pop. Older people loved old things. That was never truer than with Timrock's grandfather. The true constant, a boulder that withstood the erosion of time. His hair couldn't get any wider, his wrinkles couldn't get deeper, right? He'd already reached elderliness when you met. What you saw in front of you was his final form. Mr. Bauman wouldn't have changed a single thing for the rest of his life. He'd have a wife and granddaughter who made him do it sometimes, in little ways. Made him laugh, yeah. Oh, fuck. Wait. Yes. Take me there. Unk! Unk climbed down the miniature set of stairs into the backyard. Bracing one knee with his hand and taking the steps half at a time. He put both feet on the same level before going down to the next. Unc was solidly built. That made the risk of accidents more troublesome. If he fell, he'd fall hard. How did the call go? I don't remember what voice I gave him, bro, because he was only in there for like a couple seconds. Timurk's gaze met yours. That wasn't much of a call, and that had been her goal. A few minutes of small talk with a friend on standby to make certain it never went past that. Timurk summed it up nicely with his shout. Good. And this was a good time to go. She needed you too. You spoke in a hush. Timurk, I've got to leave now. Bye. Huh? You jerked your chin towards that way. You're leaving? Okay. So you wiggled out of the swing. It was fun while it lasted. Bye. Timurk waved you off. Unc simply watched you walk away. Good day. The backside of the neighborhood was behind you. You marched right through the center of the road, passing your house, and reached the other side.